everybody, welcome back to Might Be Manic. So today I'm going to talk about something that I am not sure if I've spoken about before. Most of you know that I am adopted, and I'm going to explain to you why reunification was the worst thing that I've ever done in my life. Now, I've done a lot of things, but the top three, in the top three is meeting my biological family. So I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about the reason behind that. And, this season we don't have much of an intro. We just kind of dive in. So here we go. So, I was adopted at 30 days old. Most of you know I was extremely close with my mom. She's my everything. She's my pillar. My paramount to my life. The most important thing I've ever had, the greatest gift I've ever received in my whole life was being adopted. And I've always been really at peace with the fact that I'm adopted. It's never been a problem for me because I had everything, I didn't lack for anything. And so, it's never been something that I was upset about. There's curiosity, like you want to know where you come from at times, especially when you grow up somewhere that's not very diverse, but it never felt like I had a deficit or a void anywhere in my life. I was always very happy. And, I loved my mom. She was everything to me. And that right there would be difficult for anyone who put a child up for adoption, the level of a bond that I have with my mom, because there's not really any room for another mom. However, in 2013, on New Year's Eve, my biological dad reached out to me, and I was on a flight out there it was on Christmas, but I was on a flight out there by New Year's Eve. As soon as I got there, I realized, how different they were than I am, and I was open-minded to it. I was willing to get to know them. And have you ever gotten the answer to a question that haunted you your whole life and realized the answer destroyed more peace than the question ever did? I need people to understand something. Adoption reunification is not always healing. Sometimes it's psychological warfare wrapped in DNA. So if you're adopted and you're thinking about meeting your parents, this is my strong advisory. I can't tell you what to do, but I would definitely say I wish I hadn't done it. Sometimes meeting them is finally meeting the mere source of wounds that you spent your entire life trying to survive. And I know it sounds dramatic, but if you know, you know. So people romanticize reunification because society worships blood ties. There's this idea that biology is automatically sacred, blood is thicker than water, and that finding your biological mother is supposed to feel like some cinematic completion scene where violins start playing and generations of pain just dissolve in one hug. That was not my experience. My experience has felt like walking directly into somebody else's unresolved shadow and basically being made the scapegoat for all of their failures. Also, having a person who's so broken that they insist on you being the issue when truly they just haven't ever had anyone around them that's highlighted the facts that they have a lot of flaws. The deeper I got into the relationship, the more I realized something horrifying. I was never entering a reunion, just a field of projection. So because of my lens and the way I see this and the way it is, what happens in some adoption reunifications is not love, but it's confrontation. So you become the living evidence of somebody's unresolved choices, regrets, guilt, trauma, shame, and their fractured identity. Some people can't survive emotionally while they're facing the mirror of what they abandoned, especially when it's a responsibility. And that's the part people don't want to say out loud. I started noticing this bizarre paradox where my good qualities would be claimed, but my individuality would be punished. If I'm intelligent, I became intelligent because of her. If I was pretty, it's because I look like her, which I don't. If I succeeded, suddenly it was because of her bloodline. But if I disagreed, questioned, or held boundaries, had a difficult day, or simply existed outside of the role she had assigned, suddenly I become the villain. She's constantly aligning with anybody who dislikes me or mistreats me. And she can't wait for someone to talk bad about me because that's all she likes to do too. And she needs her world to validate this fake narrative that she's created. I then started realizing that this was not about me as a human being, but about what my existence actually activates inside of her. From my perspective, when someone places a child for adoption, especially if they never fully process it emotionally, the child becomes symbolic and a living container for everything they don't want to face within themselves. So it breaks this fantasy that they've created. If they return healthy and intelligent, loved, emotionally aware, and successful, that shatters it even more, especially when you're deeply bonded to another mother figure, especially when you involve race. Because I genuinely believe part of her expected me to come back broken, just begging for her to take me back, not thriving or deeply loved or emotionally insightful. She had hoped I wouldn't be okay without her, and she hates to admit that I am as great as I am because of a white woman. When I didn't fit the initial narrative that she had created, the relationship has become competitive instead of nurturing from her side only. If I'm saying I'm going to write a book, she says she was going to do that. If I say I'm getting weight loss surgery, she says she was going to do that. If I say I'm going to make a podcast, she says she was going to do that. It's one of the sickest feelings an adoptee can experience, and it's when you realize that your biological parent sees you not as a child, but as an emotional threat. People who haven't lived in this dynamic wouldn't understand the psychological confusion of being simultaneously wanted, begged for, and then told to go away and resented, and any person would only have so much in them before they're done with this person. I'm a pretty patient person, and honestly, she can't hurt my feelings because I don't need her here. She can come or go, and I've known that from the beginning. So I put up with more than I probably should. You know, they wanted contact, and then there would be statements like, we don't call you, you call us. I care about my kids, not you, blah, blah. And not only that, she'll make personal digs about my children as well. It just seems like complete emotional, breakdown and delusion. And it messes with you because you're trying to decode the contradiction all the time when she's the parent, and I have to try to see what you're really saying. And at the end of the day, she is just a cruel person, and that's what it is. From my lens, the statements weren't random. They're attempts at power plays or reverse rejection. It's an attempt to establish emotional dominance before I can emotionally abandon the relationship myself, but it doesn't work because unfortunately this person is not operating with the full deck. Deep down, I think some people know when they're failing you, and I think God knows when someone isn't worthy of being a parent, and that's what puts that on their heart to become a biological mom instead of a mother in the first place. They're not able to be accountable, so they try to destroy your perception of your own worth first because it would work for them. But unfortunately, when you are built with a certain type of confidence, they're not able to do that, and it confuses them, so they just start throwing different things your way. There's also another layer people avoid discussing, and that's racial resentment when it comes to adoption and reunification. Some people can't emotionally process the reality that another woman, especially of another race, raised their child better than they could have done. And the reality shatters something inside them because it doesn't agree with their racial biases. Because I did not return desperate for saving, but I felt loved, I didn't need her approval, and I was emotionally bonded with someone else. I had a sense of personal stability, intelligence, and emotional depth, and really an indifference to her opinion on me. And you could just feel the resentment radiating off that reality. And it wasn't because I did anything wrong to her per se, but because my existence contradicts the story she has told herself to survive emotionally all these years. Because remember, when you put a child up for adoption, you know about them, but they don't know about you. So she had a whole lifetime to think about this, and I hadn't thought about her at all. This is where people are going to get uncomfortable, but I believe unresolved trauma can absolutely distort somebody's ability to love properly, not theoretically, but literally. What I experienced felt like someone trying to psychologically transfer their shame onto me so they wouldn't have to carry it anymore, and I wouldn't allow it. Every accomplishment would be minimized, strength challenged, perception questioned, and boundaries interpreted as rebellion. She even aligned herself with some of my greatest abusers in my life, and everyone who doesn't like me feels perfectly free and open to speak to her because it's clear to everyone she is my biggest hater. It feels like if I stay emotionally healthy, someone else had to try to collapse under the weight of that comparison. And the craziest part is, for a long time, I used to have empathy for her. Adoptees are conditioned to over-empathize at times. We become emotional detectives and we overanalyze, and we tend to rationalize harmful behavior because we understand having trauma. Although I didn't have trauma that was carried in this exact facet like she had hoped I would. Understanding and tolerating emotional destruction are not the same thing, however, and that realization has changed my life. I think a lot of adoptees fantasize about reunion because there's this primal wound attached to not knowing where you come from and your sense of identity, so you feel like if you meet them, it'll stabilize that identity. But nobody prepares you for what happens when it actually destabilizes it further. When I met her, I was looking at everything I never wanted to become. She's the worst case scenario for who I could be, and it's incarnated when I look at her. Nobody prepares you for grieving people that are actually still alive, and for them to be grieving you when you've been alive the whole time. Nobody prepares you to know that they're going to want you to apologize for a choice that they made, and that's after they made the choice to bring you onto this planet. This is a person that has continued to procreate with different men and yet has no desire to be a mother whatsoever. She's also a male-centered woman, and, I wasn't prepared for the rage of realizing biology doesn't automatically create safety. Nobody prepares you for the disappointment of discovering that some people just want proximity to you if you remain smaller than them as to not trigger them. But honestly, the grief is completely unbearable, and honestly, her behavior is completely intolerable all the time. So then you're not just grieving that relationship, but you're grieving this imaginary mom that you thought someday could fit into your life in some way, shape, or form. And the truth is, the version of reunion you built in your head to survive childhood is fake, just like many things we believe as kids. Once reality destroys that fantasy, there's no putting it back together, and you realize there's no place in your life for somebody like this. There never was. I'm glad every day that I was put up for adoption. I can't imagine the type of scumbag I would have became had I been raised by this individual. And one of the hardest things for me was realizing I kept trying to earn emotional recognition from someone who benefits from psychologically misunderstanding me and making up lies about me. This person would like to disparage me to everyone who will listen, because if she says who I really am, it'll make her look like a failure. Because none of her kids are successful. They're all mentally unwell and, failed to launch. So when you sit with that, you realize some people need you to stay wrong so they don't have to confront themselves. And once I understood that, whether she liked me or not went out the window. I stopped trying to decode chaos or trying to force emotional reciprocity, and I stopped believing that blood means alignment, because honestly, family isn't always blood. Family is where your nervous system can finally unclench. My mom, who raised me, she always protected me, loved me, guided me, and I could trust her with anything. She was an ally. And it's not because of biology, but consistency, care, and presence, and the effort she put in to be a mom. Biology created my body, but love raised me, and I have everything to thank my mom for that. I know some people will hear this and think it sounds harsh, but I think adoptees deserve a space to tell the truth without being forced into gratitude narratives. We have to play a role from the day we're born. I'm writing a book called Dress Me Like Your Daughter, and that's exactly what it's like. But somehow my mom was able to take that, and I didn't have to just dress like her daughter. I really was her daughter. See, some reunifications are beautiful, and some are healing, but some are transformative, and some are just plain devastating, and some you would just be better without. Mine forced me to confront the possibility that closure I spent my life looking for was never inside someone else, but it was finally understanding why I searched so hard for emotional safety in the first place. I have found that with my kids and in my, inability to ever stop trying to be a better mom every day. She encourages me to give up on my children, but that's just so I can have the same pain that she harbors, and I refuse to do so. Because of what I've been through, I don't give up on people that I love, ever. Because that's just not what you do. Closure was realizing I never needed to earn the right to exist peacefully, and the worst thing I ever did was expecting a broken person to handle my heart carefully simply because we share DNA. So I implore you, if you're looking to meet your biological parents, to sit with this and think very hard about it, because you may realize that you have more respect for them before you know them, and afterwards it might be impossible to do so. Spiral Q.